All right, John chapter 11. Now a man was sick, Lazarus from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair, and it was her brother Lazarus who was sick. So the sisters sent a message to him, Lord, the one you love is sick. When Jesus heard it, he said, this sickness will not end in death, but it is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. So when he heard he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Then after that, he said to the disciples, let's go to Judea again. Rabbi, the disciples told him, just now the Jews tried to stone you, and you're going there again? Aren't there 12 hours in a day? Jesus answered. If anyone walks during the day, he doesn't stumble, but because he sees the light of the world. But if anybody walks during the night, he does stumble, because the light is not in him. He said this, and then he told them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm on my way to wake him up. Hey, Jews World. Then the disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will get well. It's funny, this interaction that Jesus has with the disciples in this conversation. It is very unorthodox. And Jesus, however, was speaking about his death, but they thought he was speaking about natural sleep. So Jesus then told them plainly, Lazarus has died. I'm glad for you that I wasn't there so that you may believe, but let's go to him. Do you hear how that, it's almost like you have to read this like a couple times to realize what Jesus is saying to them, because you have to put yourself in that perspective of, what if Jesus said that to you? He said, Lazarus has died. I'm glad for you that I wasn't there so that you may believe. What? Like, this crazy talk, you know? If you think like a human being, that's what it would be. Hey, Mike, good to see you, man. It would just be crazy to think of that. That talk is like, whoa, hang on a second. Lazarus is dead, but Jesus is saying, I'm glad for you. What? Crazy. And then Thomas, called Twin, said to his fellow disciples, let's go too, so that we may die with him. Like, they didn't even know really how to comprehend it in a human way, right? They didn't even know how to comprehend this. And when Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. So that's important. 4 days is important, because you got to remember that Lazarus being in the tomb for 4 days, that's 1 day later than what it was for Jesus, right? Bethany was near Jerusalem, less than 2 miles away. Many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them about their brother. As soon as Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Then Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Do you see? Martha is going straight to Jesus. Like, she's going out there to tell Jesus what was up. Like, Jesus, I can't believe you did this to me. I can't believe you would do this to me. Like, you knew he was sick and you still waited. You still didn't come when I asked you to be here. Then Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Yet even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Do you see how Martha gets stuck in her human thoughts? Martha gets stuck in her human thoughts because it's so hard for her to comprehend the power of God through Jesus, how he could do what he's about to do. And isn't that true for ourselves? Isn't that true for us sometimes, that we get stuck in our human thought process, that there's going to be this, nothing that's impossible is going to be possible. right? Don't we get stuck like that, guys? We kind of put God in a bottle. We kind of put him in this little bottle, and it's like, oh, let me rub this genie bottle, and maybe he'll come out and, grant one of my wishes. But you have to pray the impossible prayers to God, because the impossible prayers are the prayers that are possible with God, right? Because he can do things that are impossible to us. Yeah, absolutely. We get stuck in our own human thought process. It's like, oh, well, for this wallet to be made a wallet, someone has to have a factory, and they have to sew it, and they have to do this, and they have to do that. We have all these thoughts, right? But God's saying, God can do things above your comprehension and understanding. So Jesus looked at them and said, your brother will rise again. And Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. See what she's automatically comprehending all these things, right? She said, oh, he's going to come back in the last days, because she knows the resurrection story, right? Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me, even if he dies, will live. Everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she told him. I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who comes into the world. Having said this, she went back and called her sister Mary, saying in private, the teacher is here, and he's calling for you. And as soon as Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. And Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Mary had met him. So Martha ran out. Jesus didn't even get to the place yet. She didn't even get to the house. She ran out to meet him, to tell him how wrong he was. The Jews who were with her in the house consoling her saw that Mary got up quickly and went out. They followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to cry there. As soon as Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and told him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. When Jesus saw her crying and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you put him? He asked. Lord, they told him, come and see. And verse 35 just literally says, Jesus wept. So I think it's the absolute shortest verse in the entire Bible. John chapter 11, verse 35 just says, Jesus wept. So the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, couldn't he who opened the blind man's eyes also have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Remove the stone, Jesus said. Martha, the dead man's sister, told him, Lord, there is already a stench because he's been dead for 4 days. And Jesus said to her, didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? So they removed the stone. And then Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you heard me. I know that you always hear me. But because of this crowd standing here, I said this, so that they may believe you sent me. After he had said this, he shouted with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, bound hand and foot with linen strips, and with his face wrapped in a cloth. And Jesus said to them, "Unwrap him and let him go." Therefore many of the Jews who had came to Mary and saw what he did believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees convened the Sanhedrin and were saying, "What are we going to do, since this man is doing many signs? And if we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." One of them, Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all. You're not considering that it is to your advantage that one man should die for the people rather than the whole nation perish." He did not say this on his own, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for that nation. And not for the nation only, but also to unite the scattered children of God. So from that day on, they plotted to kill him. And Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but departed from there to the countryside near the wilderness to a town called Ephraim. And he stayed there with the disciples. Now the Jewish Passover was near, and many went up to Jerusalem from the country to purify themselves before the Passover. They were looking for Jesus and asking one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? He won't come to the festival, will he?" The chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should report it so that they could arrest him. So what a story. So one of the things that I learned about this and why it was so important that Lazarus be dead for 4 days is because they actually had, the Jews at that time actually had a belief that someone could come back to life 2 days after they've been pronounced dead. So once it gets past that, they believe that the spirit could not come back to someone. So God had to make sure that it was extended past that time frame. And then it was even more important that it be 1 day later than it was for Jesus to be resurrected as well. So just those things are just mind-blowing to me. You know, mind-blowing that I can be able to read this and know that other people, because it's also important that it says, therefore many of the Jews came to Mary and saw what he did and believed him, because there were other people there watching, because it said that there was a crowd. So it wasn't just, he didn't just show a couple people. There was a crowd of people that he literally said, "Lazarus, come out." And this mummy walked out, and they unwrapped him, and he was just like you and me. And a lot of people, I won't say they won't ignore this miracle, but a lot of people don't talk about it on a regular basis. And I think it's an amazing evidence of what God can do, and outside of our understanding. We don't have to understand, but it is for us to be obedient and know that it just takes faith. You don't have to understand, but God knows your heart. And when you believe this, like I believe this, it's that faith that God reads, and he understands that, yeah, it's really hard since you didn't see it happen. But we get to read the history of it. I believe that, I say this all the time, I believe that George Washington was alive. I believe that he was the first president of the United States. I didn't see George Washington. I didn't shake George Washington's hand. But I read it in a history book, and I believe the history books. There wasn't 500 people in a history book that told me, hey, here's 500 pieces of evidence. But we also have these here. Then in some cases, some of these miracles had 5,000 people there watching it and give an account. Has anybody went back and read John chapter 11, and do they find it intriguing, like to be able to see that and read about it and how different it is to see someone else resurrected? Also, to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up, Lazarus was one of the only people, he didn't die. He died here, he resurrected him, but from then on, he did not. It said that Jesus took Lazarus to heaven. So he didn't have to feel a second death or anything like that. He literally was ascended into heaven.